Hey, this is Gina Duke with Churchtown Ministries at ginaduke.com. I have got a real treat for you today. You know, I've been talking a lot lately about praise and thanksgiving. And if you remember, I've been talking about this new scripture that I have found in Psalm 47:7, where it talks about that God is king over all the earth. Give him praise with understanding. And I have loved that scripture. It's a new find for me. And as I began to study it, really what I realized was that God was saying, give praise with some instruction. And where you're like teaching people something about the praise that you're giving. And I just think that's kind of a cool thing. Well, we've been doing the Kelly Mentor study of Nehemiah. And one of my ladies in my Bible study, Shelley, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, told this wonderful story about some mission work she had been doing. And it was a perfect example about giving praise with understanding. And I just wanted her to share that with you. And so I'm going to let her tell you that story. And then I'm going to come back with some closing comments because I think it's the perfect example and it's such a God-awesome story.
Hey, I'm Shelley Surface. And Gina had asked me to share a story about when my husband and I were short-term mission coordinators to Mexico. And the very first trip I ever went on, we had met a family. We were having a medical clinic, and I'm a nurse, and I was working the clinic. And we had met a family of 4 small kids. The oldest was about 9 years old, and they had lice. And we were taking them back to their house to treat them for lice. And at that point, I thought that I was going to eradicate lice in the village that we were working in, which was a total joke. But we took them back. We shampooed their hair, and we get the shampoo in their hair. And one of the little girls grabbed the baby and was crying, and she was in the corner, and she didn't want us to rinse the shampoo from the baby's hair. And at that point, I didn't speak Spanish. I wasn't sure what was going on, and so I asked the lady who was with me, like, what is she crying about? And the oldest little girl began to explain that their mom worked at night and that the oldest, who was 9, was responsible for all the kids. And there had been a newborn baby who was about 2 weeks old, and that baby had been kidnapped the night before. And someone just ran in, grabbed the baby, and ran out, and that was the end of the story. Like, there was no investigation. There was no one seeking to try to find the child. And my heart was just broken for these children. We finally calmed the little girl, and we got all their hair rinsed. And that night we had a service. They came to that service, and the pastor of that service prayed over those kids. And then I prayed for those kids diligently for years. And years later, I was working a clinic in the same village, and in the back of the clinic, there was a little window, and this little girl came to that back window, and she knocked on the window, and I opened it, and she said, "You're the lady who healed me of lice." And I knew instantly who she was, and I said, "No, sweetheart, I'm not the lady who healed you from lice. I shampooed your hair, but God is the one that healed you." And she had a bracelet in her hand, and it was a bracelet that she had made at Bible school. And she said, "I want you to have this bracelet." And I learned very early on there that when someone offers you a gift, that they intend for you to accept it. And so I told her thank you, and I talked with her, and she had told me that that they had been going to church, and that I saw quickly that God had totally worked in their life. The kids were in school at that point. The mom had worked a job in prostitution because that's how she could provide for her family, and she was out of prostitution. They were attending this church regularly, and at that time I was in a crossroad in my walk with this mission work, thinking, okay, Lord, is what we're doing here, is it beneficial? Is it really making a difference? Is it changing lives, or are we wasting our time and our money and our effort? Would it be better if we just sent money here for other people to do this work, or is it really making a difference? And God spoke to me so clearly through just that interaction with that little girl, and made it very clear that lives were being changed and that he had us right where we were supposed to be. And I have multiple stories like that of how I would have a moment of discouragement where I would think, is this really what we're supposed to be doing? Is there something better than this? Is there a better way to do this? And God would reveal to me through those precious people that he was doing the work through us that he wanted to be done. And I just appreciate you, Gina, allowing me the opportunity to share that story. It's dear to my heart, and it's one of those moments where I realize that God can use circumstances like that to reveal that his will in our life is actually being done. And that was just one of those special times for me.
Don't you love that story? I mean, because this is what Shelley was sharing with us in our Bible study. She was giving us this praise report. And so really the praise is that God had done a work in that particular family she had been ministering to in Mexico that she had spent years praying for. God had answered that prayer, and she was given a praise report. But did you catch the praise with understanding the instruction part of that? She had this other thing going on where she's thinking, Lord, is what I'm doing even making a difference? Is it making an impact? All this work we're doing, all this planning. And God was gracious to bring back that same little girl to her to show her that she was making a difference in her life. So as Shelley shared this story in our class the other night, not only was she giving praise to God for what he had done, but she was teaching other women in that same session that God cares about what we care about. He wants to validate the ministry that he is doing in our lives, and that we can be rest assured that God's will is being done and that we are being used for his divine purposes. That is praise with understanding, with instruction, and I hope that you pay attention to that as you go through your walk with Christ, looking for praise with instruction and giving praise with instruction as well. God bless.